Have you ever experienced this? You made an investment decision today that you were absolutely 100% certain about. I mean, you did the research, you felt incredibly confident, completely informed, and then, bam, you lost money anyway. It is an agonizing experience, right? But what if I told you that this loss is actually not the result of bad luck? It's not some broken or rigged system working against you. In this explainer, we're going to look at the exact science of why this happens, and more importantly, how you can protect yourself.
To answer why you lost money when you were so sure, we kind of have to face a really uncomfortable truth. You see, you didn't lose money because you aren't smart enough. You lost money because your brain is functioning exactly the way it was designed to work. The problem is just that its brilliant design is in no way built for the modern stock market. Okay, let's dive right into this by exploring the massive evolutionary timeline gap between our neurology and modern finance. Section 1. Your brain versus the market.
Consider this number, 300,000. The human brain is approximately 300,000 years old. So that means every single instinct you rely on when you invest, every gut feeling, every confident snap judgment, was forged over millennia for one primary purpose, and that is primal survival in incredibly dangerous environments.
Now, contrast that instantly with this number, 400. The stock market, at least as we generally understand it today, has only existed for roughly 400 years. On an evolutionary scale, that is literally a blink of an eye. Your ancient brain has had absolutely zero time to adapt to this radically new environment.
And this brilliantly illustrates the mismatch, doesn't it? We're applying ancient survival hardware to a modern world of entirely abstract financial concepts. I mean, your brain was fine-tuned on the savannah and in caves, a world where the wrong decision literally meant you were eaten by a predator. You can't exactly throw a spear at a bear market, right? Or outrun a dropping ticker symbol. It has absolutely nothing to do with earnings reports or calculating compound interest. But that very same ancient brain is still running the show the second you log into your brokerage account.
Let's move to our second section and uncover the first major psychological culprit responsible for our worst financial mistakes. Section 2. The pain of losing money. Back in 1979, a psychologist named Daniel Kahneman and his colleague Amos Tversky published a paper that completely shattered the classical economic idea of the rational investor. They called it prospect theory. And what they discovered was simple, it was devastating, and honestly, it's almost impossible to overcome. They basically proved that human beings simply do not evaluate financial gains and losses equally.
So the absolutely crucial point here is this. Losing money hurts roughly twice as much as gaining the exact same amount feels good. Let that sink in for a second. Losing $100 causes you about twice the emotional pain as winning $100 causes you joy. This asymmetry isn't some personality flaw you have, it's baked right into your neurology. And because the market doesn't care about your pain, it just moves, it crashes, it recovers, this biological wiring pushes your brain to sell at exactly the wrong moments, purely just to make the emotional pain stop. It makes you hold on to losing positions way too long because, well, selling means admitting the loss is real. You are simply not built to hold through a 30% drawdown. You are built to run.
Let's move to our next topic and see how this builds on itself. Section 3. Memory is not a spreadsheet. This is where we uncover the second force working directly against you. Kahneman and Tversky also documented what they called the availability heuristic. Basically, your brain judges the probability of an event not by actual hard mathematical data, but by how easily an example comes to mind. Think about it. If you recently watched a stock crash on the news, your brain is going to massively overestimate the odds that the next stock you look at will also crash. Or if someone in your office made a fortune on a single trade, you overestimate your odds of doing the exact same thing. You aren't actually calculating probability, you're pattern matching from memory. And human memory is an emotional highlight reel. It is not a spreadsheet. This cognitive shortcut is exactly why markets bubble and why they crash. You've got millions of brains feeding each other the exact same distorted signals. Let's ground this in physical reality for a moment. Think about what your body actually does when you see a stock you own drop 15% in a single day. Your heart rate increases. The stress hormone, cortisol, just floods your bloodstream. Your hands might literally start shaking, and your attention dramatically narrows. This is a visceral, physiological fight or flee reaction. It's the exact same biological state your ancestors entered when a hungry predator appeared on the horizon. But unfortunately, neither fighting nor fleeing is particularly useful when you're just staring at a brokerage app on your phone. This actually brings us to a concept called myopic loss aversion. This was coined by researchers Shlomo Benartzi and Richard Thaler. They found that investors who check their portfolios frequently experience that cortisol spike over and over and over again, and as a result, they make dramatically worse long-term decisions than people who rarely check. When you look often, you just see more short-term losses. This repeated stress forces your ancient brain to demand action, because in the wild, taking action feels like survival, while staying still feels like freezing in front of a predator. But in investing, staying still is almost always the mathematically correct move, even when every single cell in your body is screaming at you to do something.
We've talked a lot about fear. But next, let's examine the third and perhaps most dangerous mechanism. Section 4. The overconfidence trap. This strikes not when you're afraid, but when you actually think you know exactly what you're doing.
Now, what's really fascinating here is the data from a massive study by Brad Barber and Terrence O'Dean. They analyzed the trading records of tens of thousands of individual investors over several years, and the data revealed this crazy divide. Men traded much more frequently than women, and they expressed much higher confidence in their ability to predict market movements. And yet, men had worse overall returns. This isn't about intelligence at all. It's about the fact that higher confidence directly leads to more trades, and more trades mean more friction, more fees, and constantly interrupting the quiet, invisible work of compound interest. Confidence feels like competence to our brains, but they are absolutely not the same thing.
And here is where your brain plays its neatest trick: self-attribution bias. When you hit a winning streak, your brain plays a really dangerous game. You suddenly start believing you're this financial genius, attributing all those gains to your own inherent skill. But when you lose, you assign all the blame to external forces. Market manipulation, a shifting economy, or just plain bad luck. Winning streaks trick the brain into this dangerous feedback loop. You feel incredibly skilled, so you start concentrating your bets. You take larger positions, and you completely abandon diversification because diversifying suddenly feels like admitting you aren't perfectly sure.
So, with a clear understanding of our deeply ingrained biological limitations, we can finally pivot to the practical solution. Section 5. Systems over instincts.
First, we have to acknowledge a major warning. Your brain will constantly attempt to protect you in ways that are actively harmful to your financial future. And listen, none of these biases are your fault. You inherited these incredibly effective survival tools, but you cannot simply outthink your biology just by being aware of it. Research actually shows that even when people are explicitly taught about loss aversion and overconfidence, they still fall victim to them. Just knowing the pain is coming doesn't stop it from hurting, right? So we need a radical paradigm shift in how we approach our investments.
The answer here is to strictly design automated, disciplined systems that completely bypass your brain's emotional impulses. Here are the systems you need. First, automate your contributions so you aren't forced to make a conscious, emotion-heavy decision every single month. Second, set really firm rules in advance on when to sell so that future you isn't making a panicked, sweaty call in the middle of a market downturn. Third, diversify your holdings, not because you lack conviction, but specifically to protect yourself against your own brain's false sense of certainty. And finally, check your portfolio way less frequently. Frequency breeds reaction, and reaction breeds loss. Just give compounding the quiet space it needs to do its thing.
If you need proof that systems beat instincts, just look at Warren Buffett. He's widely considered one of the greatest investors of all time, but he didn't build Berkshire Hathaway by just fearlessly trusting his gut. No way. He built strict rules, rigorous filters, and a really rigid framework specifically designed to protect him from the worst impulses of his own mind. The most successful investors in history aren't immune to fear. They just build structural frameworks to account for their own psychology.
To wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with this powerful thought. Your ancient brain is an extraordinary instrument. It's been refined over hundreds of thousands of years for pattern recognition and rapid response. But it is simply the wrong tool for evaluating discounted cash flow models under uncertainty. The market does not reward the fastest brain or even the most confident brain. It rewards the most disciplined one. And true discipline simply means doing the exact opposite of what your ancient brain is screaming at you to do. So the next time you feel that surge of absolute certainty right before hitting buy or sell, take a breath and ask yourself, are you following a system or are you just trying to survive on the savannah?